Hello and welcome everybody to Reels in the Round. I'm Ronan.
I am Kirk. I am Kirk. I will be Kirk.
You will be Kirk?
I will be Kirk.
You're not going to be changing anytime soon?
No, not at all.
Okay,
Although, at one point when I was a kid, I wanted to pretend to be twins. I was like, when I was in my teens, I was like, I'm going to go to Hollywood, and I'm going to pull off like a reverse Parent Trap. I'm going to work as both Kirk and Frank. Wait for it. And so I'm going to be Kirk, and I'll have one personality. I'll be really nice and really, really like easy to work with. And Frank will just be a misogynist asshole jackass. And then after years of doing double duty and working, and like, wow, I've never seen Kirk and Frank at the same place, I was going to write a book called, wait for it, Let Me Be Frank With You. And then it was going to be a book about the duality of Hollywood, and about how I was going to chart like how being nice got me X far and being a jerk got me Y far, and how to do that. And after realizing that that would never work in anything but a bad movie, I decided not to do it. But literally, I had it all planned out. The book, Let Me Be Frank With You, written by Frank Westwood, who does not exist.
Okay, so you're over here saying this like really terrible bad dad joke, and you thought I was going to make a terrible one.
No, you are going to make so here's the difference. To have a good dad joke, it needs to have nuance, which can only be gained after years of torturing children.
I see.
It's teenagers trying to do dad jokes. Those are just bad jokes. But a true dad joke takes a level of sophistication, like Let Me Be Frank With You. But continue.
Okay, well, kind of like a transition. We're going to be talking about how being a terrible person in this episode.
Are we now? Okay. No, yeah, there were some pretty terrible people in this movie.
I'm talking about Christian Bale's character, but not to get too far ahead of myself.
Okay.
Today we watched Ford versus Ferrari.
Yes, we did.
And last time you wore a hat.
Did I?
Yeah, you did.
Oh, I wore my black, my flat cap. That's right.
So I guess I should wear a hat too.
Okay. So that's what I'm saying. That's not a dad joke. That's just a bad joke. That's nuanced, man. But I love it. I love the hat. If I had a Ferrari hat, I would wear it. I will say.
Yeah.
Before we get into the particulars of this film, actually no, we'll do the particulars, then I'll jump in.
Okay, so James Mangold was the producer. He produced it. If you're unaware of who James Mangold is, he produced Logan, Wolverine, and The Greatest Showman.
So he has a thing for Hugh Jackman. Got it. Got it.
And then, not to say that I don't like this guy's name, but this guy's last name, top notch.
Okay.
Jez Butterworth.
Jez?
Yeah, Jez. Jez.
Jez Butterworth.
Butterworth, fantastic.
Okay.
But he was the writer, and Edge of Tomorrow, Black Mess, and Fair Game.
Okay, and he wrote it?
Yes.
He is a fantastic writer. I will get into some of those things as we get into the nuance, but I did not know that name, but he is a terrific writer.
Well, he was a co-writer with what I assume to be his brother. Another
Someone
Butterworth.
else named Butterworth. Let's
Yes.
pray that they're related, because otherwise that's just not fair. Okay.
And he also co-wrote the other same movies.
Cool.
So, yep. And then Matt Damon, Christian Bale, stars of the show.
Oh yeah, Matt Damon, Christian Bale, Josh Lucas. I mean, this movie had several. Katrina Balfe of Outlander fame. No, this was a really. I won't go straight to star-studded, but
Yeah.
there was some solid talent in this movie.
And we'll get to them later on as well.
Absolutely.
Okay. And did you want to say anything before we get to the synopsis, or?
We don't need to get too so I mean, give me a two sentence synopsis of this film.
This is an underdog film of Ford, or their company, who didn't have a racing team, and they just showed Ferrari who's boss in their own territory.
Love it. Perfect synopsis of this film. The thing that I loved, with a title like Ford versus Ferrari, it was really, really set up to be a movie about Ford versus Ferrari, which it absolutely is not. the movie is not about Ford versus Ferrari. The movie is about Ford versus Ford. The
really
movie is about old technology and innovation. The movie is about fighting bureaucracy with thinking outside of the box. The characters are Carroll Shelby, who, for those who are automotively inclined, he needs no introduction. Those who are not, he's the reason that the Shelby Cobra is called the Shelby Cobra. Like, Carroll Shelby is a design god legend of American muscle. Incredible. Christian Bale plays Ken Miles, who is also a famous engineer who died in 1966 when his car caught fire on a test track, which they cover very briefly at the end of the movie. But this movie, I really thought, like Rush, which came out at the same time and is a very similar thing about Formula One, I really thought this was going to be like what's Ferrari doing? What's Ford doing? Like, Ferrari's in none of this movie. There's 2 scenes that have Ferrari almost at all.
Yeah.
It really is about Lee Iacocca, who played by John Barenthal, or as we all know him, Punisher. This movie's more about Lee Iacocca trying to get Henry Ford II, to see the world anew, and it's a beautiful movie about innovation, both physical engineering innovation and mental procedural innovation. But I really appreciated the lack of Ferrari in this movie, because and I mean that, like, it didn't need a bad guy, and with very, very few exceptions, the bad guys were all internal. Josh Lucas was the bad guy of bureaucracy. There were very few times that Ferrari, who was the bad guy, it wasn't. It was Lee Iacocca versus Josh Lucas's character, whose name I've forgotten because I just remember, the asshole guy.
Yeah.
But no, this is the first movie that you have told me to watch, and I really enjoyed it. It was well made, well shot, well written.
Yeah. So my question to you, since this is your first time watching this, if you're not a car person, which I don't know if you would say that you are.
I'm a motorcycle person, and so I am a motorhead, but only if it has 2 wheels.
Yeah.
So I am just adjacent enough to the car people that I get it, and I can speak car. But no, I mean, I interviewed Frank Stevenson for my book. If you're again, for the automotively initiated, needs no introduction. For those who are not, he designed the 2000 redesign of the Mini Cooper. He designed the first BMW. First BMW SUV, the X5. He designed the Fiat 500, the new one. Like, he's designed for Ferrari. He's designed for McLaren. He's designed some of the most amazing supercars, and spent 2.5 hours on the phone with me. Most delightful human being alive. But like, when it comes to talking motorcycles all day. Cars, they're like motorcycles that have too many wheels.
I was going to ask, would you still recommend and still watch this film if you weren't like a car person or a motorcycle person?
So, like, I hate sports but love sports movies. I think this movie did a really good job of... It did not get wound up in the techno geek jargon. Like, there's a scene where he gets going so fast that his brakes light on fire. Mm-hmm. There's no one who's ever been in a car that can't understand and empathize with... That's probably not good.
Yeah.
They understand the why. And they absolutely had 2 or 3 sentences of he has Blake. They absolutely cover it. But they didn't spend so much time explaining to me who A, doesn't know, and B, doesn't care.
Yeah.
I get it. His brakes got hot. That's bad. They did spend 3 sentences explaining it for those that might care. But I like how top level they did not get into the minutia of the engine. They did not get into the minutia of the engineering. And I'm sure that somewhere out there is a car god going like, why? Why didn't they get into the fact that they had to move the something 1/4 of an inch to do the thing? Because you and your friend are the only ones who would have cared. Like, they did a really good job of making a remarkably complex thing very accessible in a way that was emotion-driven and emotion-led.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, too. I was like... That movie had like the right amount of emotion, right amount of serious parts, right amount of funny parts in it.
Oh, absolutely. I was trying to multitask, having it on my TV behind my desk and work, and that did not go well. I did not get much done. There was, and the emotion between the Matt Damon character, between the Shelby and the Ken Miles, between Christian Bale and Matt Damon, and I will say, Christian Bale is terrifying.
Yes. Because
he's not a full-blown machinist in this, if you've seen The Machinist.
I have not, no.
Which you should. It's not the full-blown machinist, but he shrunk down again to skeletally thin. Mm-hmm. And when you look up Ken Miles, he crushed it. He looks identical to the man. Like, there are very few people on this planet that are just pure shapeshifters.
Yeah.
Christian Bale is one of them. He's just a terrifying individual, but he crushed this role because he is British and this character was British, but it was not his accent. It was a very different accent. It was a very different character. Katrina Balfe, again from Outlander, was his wife. It was a cool family story. It was a cool car story. It was a cool engineering story. It was a cool innovation story. I really enjoyed it. I'm sure, like, I'll wake up tomorrow and go, well, but like my straight out, I literally finished it 20 minutes ago. I like it. Yeah. Good things.
And yeah, you're talking about the characters. The Matt Damon character as Shelby, Christian Bale as Ken Miles. I don't think any other actor could have played those two characters better than they have.
Yeah, again, I looked up from a physical standpoint. They're both excellent casting. Mm-hmm. In that whole, like, every once in a while a biopic will come out, and I'm not gonna say names because it feels rude, but like every once in a while a biopic will come out, and I'm like, with X and such playing Y and so, and I look them up and I'm like, oh yeah, they wish. Like, come on now.
Yeah.
This wasn't that. Like, Matt Damon was really solid casting, and as I already said, Christian Bale was like disturbingly good casting. All the other characters, I don't know. I read Lee Iacocca's book, I don't know, 20 years ago. John Barenthal was, fine.
Yeah.
Again, he had a few less guns than I'm used to seeing him with. But I'll survive. No, this was a super. What awards did it win?
I'm not actually sure, but we're
gonna Google that.
Yeah. I would not be like terribly sad if it didn't get like 3+. I don't know where I was going with that, but
me neither.
My guess is that it won a lot.
The Ferrari Awards. Academy Award for Best Sound Editing, Academy Award for Best Film Editing, BAFTA Award. So that's the only two Oscars it won, was Best Sound and Best Edit. Wow. Which is strange. I mean, it wasn't poorly edited. I mean, it was edited well, but it's funny. I watched the whole thing. At no point was I like, wow, the editing. Which, again, sometimes I do. Sometimes I'm like, dude, this is...
Oh, yeah, that's another thing I was going to point out. Like, all the other past movies that we've been watching, like, there's, like, some abnormal shots or, like, abnormal camera movements, angles. This one, there wasn't really any abnormal...
Well, so what we've done now is so when I was coming up through film school, back in my day, there's different ways to tell a story.
Yeah.
This one was a true... this is not trying to attribute anything to this particular individual I'm going to use, but this was a true Spielberg storytelling. It wasn't to Spielberg. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying that Spielberg is a brilliant director, but he tells his stories very straight. He tells them he doesn't add in, whereas I'm more of a Baz Luhrmann fan, which tells stories very emotionally. Like, it doesn't tell it what it looks like, it tells it how it felt like, with crazy trippiness and weird film angles and weird...
Yeah.
I like the film to be apparent on the screen. This movie was a more traditional disappear into the movie, and I like it when the movie is a character. Like
or the camera,
like the camera, the sound. Like you take Baz Luhrmann films and they do these crazy things where the film speeds are all wrong and people are moving strange. And I like it when the fact that I'm watching a movie is part of the movie. Baz Luhrmann calls that audience participation cinema. But this was a classically wonderful, immersive, straightforward storytelling that was done very, very well.
Because the emotion, like, this is my second time watching it. I still felt like crying afterwards, too.
Oh, gosh.
Because the ending, I did not like the ending whatsoever.
You didn't like the ending at all?
No.
Huh.
Well, not like the whole Ken Miles dying. That
Isn't
that is
truth
based
sucky?
on the true story. I was talking about how he got second.
Well, then that's true.
Yeah.
That happened.
Okay.
That
I
happened.
guess that is true.
So that's the other thing. So again, it's biopics are always interesting. Now, I just pulled up an article from the New Yorker called "The Airbrushed Racing History of Ford v Ferrari."
Okay.
And I'm certainly not going to sit here and read an entire New Yorker article on our show. Nope, not doing it. But I want it. Not today. Ads. I want to see if it gives a. Yeah, I'm not going to read this whole thing. And I was hoping it was going to give a little bit more of a, but it does not. It's really interesting ethical debate.
Mm-hmm.
It truly is a really interesting ethical debate. For example, so if you're going to make a movie about, I don't know, Ray Charles, do you leave out the fact that, do you leave out all the grittiness and just tell a hero story because you want to, don't piss on the man's legend? Or do you actually show what tortured genius looks like? Now, I think that Ray did a good job of doing a little bit of both. Same thing with Walk the Line about Johnny Cash. I mean, it doesn't necessarily make him look like the good guy the whole time, but there are people that get really bothered by, we shouldn't come in and piss on another guy's legacy. I do not know the real story, so I can't sit here and say anything about the real story. But all the facts that I've looked up, Ken Miles really did die 6 months later on a raceway when his car caught fire.
Yeah.
He really did finish second because he was faster. He did slow down. He did. From the quick studying that I was doing, he did slow down. The technicality was true and correct. Like all the things.
Line up.
All the. Yes, it would be so much greater to have had this moment where Ken Miles had champagne and roses and yay! But that didn't happen. Now, here's the thing that I hate about history. And it's not about history. It's about the jackass that took the flowers and the champagne.
Oh, didn't share it?
No, you saw the movie. That's what happened. If you go on the Le Mans 24 Hours of Le Mans website, Ken Miles is second. And that other guy is first.
Yeah.
The fact that he wasn't the loudest protester saying, whoa, like he slowed down. I don't want your bullshit. I don't want your bouquet of pity roses. Like,
yeah.
Right now, it's the injustice that he got second that is remembered.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because even getting the fastest lap twice or 3 times actually.
And this happens throughout history a fair amount. Now, my other point does too, but if that exact same thing happened to me, and I mean this, I truly do, I can't imagine not going, whoa, are you kidding me? Like, he had to stop and wait for me. I don't want your roses. Like, how embarrassing.
Yeah.
Like, how embarrassing. I hope that guy and his children are ashamed of him. And no, I'm not kidding. What a punk-ass bitch. I hope his children are hung in shame and they burned the medals. Because that is, if even almost true, is complete bullshit. That's just my point.
Yeah, I would agree with you. Going into the movie twice, I didn't know that he got second.
Yep.
In IRL. But after knowing that, I do kind of like the realistic approach instead of making him still go first.
Well, I mean, what would be the merit? I mean, we're storytellers, you and I. And there's storytelling where you give where, to quote Chaucer from A Knight's Tale, I give the truth scope. But there's also just, it doesn't need to be pretty to be good.
Yeah. Had
they let Ken Miles have his champagne moment, everyone would have left the theater glowing. How much worse would it have been later when you realize that didn't even almost happen? Saving Mr. Banks. Not Saving Mr. Banks. No, yeah, Saving Mr. Banks, the Walt Disney making of Mary Poppins movie.
Okay, yeah.
So there's a movie about the making of Mary Poppins.
Okay.
It's so not even close to true. It is. I was gonna say Emma Thompson plays P.L. Travers, who wrote and it's coming in. It does this thing where it makes Walt Disney look like the good guy, because Disney's not gonna make a movie that makes Disney look.
Yeah.
Disney did a lot of really shady things in the making of that project, and didn't invite P.L. Travers to the premiere because he knew the things he had done was shady.
I see.
And that movie just hides it all away so that we can leave the theater going, oh my gosh, I didn't realize that it was such an important story. I didn't realize. And it was. But now we've, as the propagandist in the room, we've now lied to children for the second time.
Yeah.
And there's no value in that. I mean, there's value in good storytelling, but the truth can be told in ways that are so cool. Another good example. I hate Oliver Stone. If you're watching, you know. That's right. Because Oliver Stone's the worst at this. Oliver Stone made a movie called JFK. Mm-hmm. It is about the JFK assassination.
Yeah.
The JFK assassination is probably one of the coolest, most interesting, most dense conspiracy theories with 1,001 possibilities.
Yeah.
You could write 100 different movies and have them be telling nothing but the truth. And string them together in 101 different ways using nothing but facts, and have it be like, holy shit, good.
Yes.
Oliver Stone didn't do that. He just made crap up.
Oh.
He wanted to tell a better. And you're like,
Really?
in a target-rich environment of shooting fish in a barrel, of awesome cool, you still wanted to make stuff up.
Yeah.
Last example. Michael Bay in the making of Pearl Harbor, the movie, wanted to rewrite the speech. December 7th, 1941, a day that will live in infamy. He wanted to rewrite it to punch it up for theaters. It's one of the 5 most famous speeches of
Ever.
recorded history.
Yeah.
He wanted to punch it up.
I wouldn't have done that.
Good God.
Right?
When you're writing historical drama, there's always room, there's truly, wow.
Sorry, ears.
Sorry about that. There's always room for license. And I believe that. Greatest Showman, we talked about Hugh Jackman a minute ago.
Yeah.
There's tons of license. Like, a little too much, if you ask me. There's tons of license in The Greatest Showman. But it's still, it's a fun story.
Yeah.
It does deviate from reality a little bit, and they conflate a lot of stuff to make it a good story. But there's allowed to have license in historical movies, as long as you are showing that you're trying to stick to the facts as close as possible. Oliver Stone, screw the facts. This movie might have done an airbrushed example, as the New Yorker article, but every fact I looked up, from the death to the second to the Shelby to the interaction, all of the important benchmarks were true. Now, I'm sure, again, someone's throwing popcorn at their computer right now going, oh, no! But the benchmarks were true, as far as my research has shown.
Well, maybe the Daytona one, but it still could have been true.
What do you mean?
That one may have been false, that Ford competed with Ford to see who should drive in Le Mans.
That'd be interesting. Yeah, you're right. There's absolutely things that may or may not be true.
Yeah.
There's a lot of questions that I have. There are a lot of questions that I have that are really confusing. Like, truly, like,
Yeah.
if you were only going to send one team, then I can really understand why you wouldn't want it to be Ken Miles, as the movie portrays.
Oh, but they had 3 teams there.
But they had 2 at Daytona and 3 at Le Mans. So I'm confused. They're like, no, we're not going to let him. If there was one car and you had one chance, if you only had one chance, one opportunity. Sorry, Mr. Mathers. If you really had one shot, I could see how you wouldn't want it to put the ace being Ken Miles.
Yeah.
But if you're loading it if you have 3 teams, why the hell would you care? And again, I'm sure there's some diplomacy and bureaucracy to this, but the whole subtext of he's not going to drive, he's not going to drive, he's not going to drive. I wonder how much that's hyped up for the drama.
See. Yeah.
Because if you're running 3 teams and your engineer has a best friend and says, well, he's getting the ride, I don't understand the politics of why on earth, as Henry Ford II or Lee Iacocca or the Joshua Lucas character whose name I keep forgetting, why not letting your chief engineer's guy be one of the drivers? Again, if you have one shot, it's a different conversation.
Yeah. Well, to answer your question, kind of, I think halfway in the movie they, Leon's character,
Josh Lucas's character or Lee Iacocca?
Lee Iacocca.
Okay.
Punisher told Shelby that they had 3 other racers to go to Le Mans, and Shelby was trying to put Bale's character as one of the racers.
Right. No, I understand that.
Yeah. Oh no, 3 others.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I don't understand. That's the part I don't understand. Why they were fighting back against having Ken Miles in the mix, and it's like, oh, because they were afraid he'd say something. I mean,
that's also like an ethical question right there. Like, do you go for like the best all I can think of is like a kind of like Mr. Rogers kind of spirit.
So,
or do you go for like
I'm gonna change
the fastest in the bunch?
I'm gonna change my hat here. I'm gonna take this one off. I'm gonna put this one on. As a PR professional, I will tell you, yes. The answer is yes. You choose the. I have so many examples of this, and half of them I don't want to tell on this podcast. There have been many. Here's an example. I have firsthand knowledge of this. It did not happen to me. It happened to a colleague of mine. That he used to work for a major insurance company, mm-hmm. one of the top ones that you see commercials for.
Yeah.
And he was there in their PR communications department mm-hmm. when they sold their 1 millionth, 5 millionth, 10 millionth customer. You know, pardon me. Now, the reason this is interesting is that if you think the way that call centers work, you know, what is the 1 millionth policy? Is it the first person to answer? Is it the first person to answer the phone? Is it the first person to put in their credit card information? Is it the first person?
Yeah.
My point is that there was about 85 people that qualified to be the 1 millionth.
Yeah.
Again, or the number, whatever. It was this company was old. And so the question is like, it wasn't even like, well, you go with the true one. You go with the true 1 millionth. Based on what? Based on the beginning of the call, based on the end of the call. There was like 50, 80, there was a whole bunch of people that signed up for insurance in that 20-minute period through their 45 call centers across the entire
Yeah.
And so they cast it. It was still real. It wasn't false, but you know, they didn't want to go with the individual that lived under a bridge and you know, ate kittens. Like, mm-hmm. Is it unethical to choose the best for the story? I hope not. But would it be unethical if they just picked a totally random person who didn't even have their insurance? Yes, that's lying.
Yeah.
But there's been a lot of things, a lot of moments in history where you know, the people at this protest were cast. The people at this march, they were there because their story was going to get good coverage, mm-hmm. and it was orchestrated by people. Now this is a little off topic, but my point is that if you know you have a vehicle, if you know you have a vehicle that can win, and you know there are 10 drivers who could win, do you take the loose cannon that is the most likely to win, but is also the most likely to embarrass you, get out and go, yeah, I guess this car will do, I'm really the one, like, or do you pick the one who could probably win, but when the camera's on him, he's going to say, God bless Ford Motor Company. And the answer is, from my perspective, oh my gosh, you go with that guy. if he has a more than likely chance of winning, even if the other guy will definitely win, if you have a more than likely chance of winning, but he'll get, if I'm running 3 teams, I'll probably put the crazy guy in there. But I'm with Lee Iacocca and Ford on this one. If you can only throw one, the story matters, especially since the entire thing they were doing, the entire purpose of this was to excite people about the car.
Yeah.
And then you have this guy who every time he opens his mouth, as far as the movie's concerned, I don't know real world. I don't know real world. But as far as the movie is concerned, every time he opens his mouth, he says something insulting. We just spent $9 million in 1965. So that's like saying $500 million. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know what the real inflation rate, but it's a lot. We just spent $9 million building this car for a photo op. That's why we did it. We did it so we could cross the line. We did it so that kids could be excited about driving a Ford. We did it so that the Shelby Cobra would exist. That is why we did it. You don't fold when you have a Royal Flush in your hand, and putting a driver that is going to drive it the best but is also going to very potentially ruin the photo op. Now, he didn't do that. He fell back in line.
Yeah.
He wasn't going to do that. He was a team player. But
At the end.
But up until that point, we had no evidence to support that. Me as a PR guy, if I'm there in Lee Iacocca's place, or Josh Lucas's character, or Henry Ford II's place, I sympathize greatly with their position of making sure that we just spent $9 million to tell a story. Can we make sure that Prince Charming has a glimmer in his eye? Like, I really want ping.
But then again, another question comes to mind.
Hit me.
Is if you do take away Bale's character, would they have still gotten first? Because if you do take away like his character, Miles, I don't think Ford would have gotten first. I think
They
that
got
would've
second
gone
and third
there.
without him.
I think that I know, but they were trying to go for like the first place.
I understand that, but
yeah,
so
because they wanted to beat Ferrari.
but they got second and third.
yeah,
So even if you took Miles out, they still got second and third. Meaning they still had a quality car with quality drivers. Ken Miles didn't get them anything they didn't already have. They still had second and third place. Now, you could argue, and this is the part that I have no idea because I don't know the real story, that Ferrari wouldn't have blown their car in the last hour trying to beat their other guys. It would have still, that it was Ken Miles who made them push their car to the limit. Again, I have no knowledge of that. But you can't say, well, they wouldn't have won without Ken Miles. Ken Miles didn't win. There was first, second, and third. You can super argue that they couldn't have built the car without Ken Miles. And
that is also true.
for the record, I don't think anyone debates that. Nothing I read online even sort of debated whether or not that Ken Miles was the true
The end all and be all.
as an engineer.
Yeah,
But they still second and third he didn't drive for them. That's not how that worked. But yeah, I really enjoyed the movie. I love historical fiction, and I love historical fiction that upon a quick sniff test I know is true. Like I said, I loved Greatest Showman. It broke my heart to see just how not true it was. And that the Zac Efron character, for example, didn't even exist. Like,
oh wow,
Zac Efron's character was completely storytelling. It was an opportunity to...
bend the truth.
No, it was an opportunity. You needed a character to pull it all together.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
If your main character is insane, it's really hard to tell a story. And if
Yeah.
you tell P.T. Barnum is anything but insane, you're not telling the real story. And this isn't about Greatest Showman today, but I really love historical fiction. I love it when you can do a 10-second and find out that it was pretty solid. Biopic. I really liked this. It passed the first few stages of the sniff test. But again, please, in the comments below, tell us all the things they got wrong.
Yeah. Or tell us what you think too.
Yeah.
If you liked it, and yeah. So you said you enjoyed it.
I did. This is a solid. When my kids get a little older, I'll have them watch it. It's not that Is it inappropriate for children? No,
No.
I have my son is 7 and my daughters are 13 through 7.
I mean, maybe Christian Bale. There's some moments here and there, but
no, there's nothing in this movie I wouldn't let my children watch. I'm just saying that my children would get really bored really fast because
that is true.
it's not a kid movie.
No.
And again, I've trained my children to like motorcycles. I can make them watch any movie on a motorcycle. They'll love motorcycle movies. Anyway,
But yeah, I think this movie, it's one of my favorites.
it's super good.
I think this movie has like the right blend of, sound design's brilliant,
Absolutely.
well written.
Absolutely.
Matt Damon, Christian Bale, no one else could have played it better.
I agree.
It had like the greatest equilibrium between seriousness, funniness, and emotionalness.
Emotionalness. We're just making stuff up now,
Like
huh?
with like how well balanced it is.
No, it absolutely threaded the needle of technical filmmaking, technical mastery of storytelling and acting. It was a perfect blend of, as you said, there was action and car chase scenes because
it's a car movie.
it's a car movie.
Yeah.
There was genuine emotion and humor. There were it's a good flick. Definitely a good flick.
Yeah, and I think it's even for people that don't like cars too.
Again, I'm not a car person.
Yeah.
You gave me $1 million tomorrow, I probably wouldn't spend much of it on. I'd buy 5 motorcycles before I bought a single nice car. I drive a 2000 Mercury Grand Marquis with 287,000 miles on it.
I see.
Dead serious, but I have a Harley Fat Boy, so like, yeah, like,
And for anyone out there that's watching, that's wondering, my dream car, favorite car, Ford Mustang. So
which one?
I like the older ones.
That narrows it
1970.
down.
1970.
Which one?
Huh?
There was more than one model of. There's the Fastback. There's the Cobra. There's the Mach 1. There's the Shelby. There's there's more than one Mustang.
The Fastback.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dream car.
No, it's the Fastback is a.
Yeah.
I do like the Fastback. Yeah.
So, I don't think I ask you of this often.
Okay.
But have you done your homework of an older film that's based like this one? Take that as a no.
Of course, I did my homework. What do you take me for?
Because if so, that will probably be the movie that we'll watch next.
1960s car movie. I will say the. What's funny is I was gonna say this one, and it's the first thing that popped up.
Why does Batman appear?
Because it has a car and it was made in the 1960s. Gosh, I can't take you anywhere.
It's not a car movie though.
So I'm tempted to make you watch the original Italian Job with Michael Caine.
Okay.
And then we could watch the Italian Job and then the new Italian Job, and then this would be this could be interesting for a couple of reasons. No, let's see here. More movies. No. Easy Rider. No. Ooh.
Or what about Gone in 60 Seconds? Or what?
The original?
Yeah. Or when was
Have
that
you ever
made?
seen the original?
No.
In the 60s. The one that
Okay.
everyone has heard of is so you know what? I've never seen seen Bullet. And Bullet is another car. It's you know what? We're going to watch Bullet
Okay.
because we can watch it on HBO Max just like we did. So we're going to watch the Steve McQueen classic Bullet. This came out before either of us was alive. So that'll be a change. But yeah, we're going to watch Steve McQueen's Bullet, which
Okay.
is real quick. It came out. This is awesome. It came out in 1968. So, and it features a Mustang. So there is remarkably easy as a filmmaker to say, I have no knowledge of this. But in this, Le Mans came out in 65, 66.
Yeah.
The Shelby and Ken Miles 65 won Le Mans. The whole purpose was to reinvigorate and excite people about Ford. 3 years later in Hollywood, 1968, Steve McQueen does Bullet about a Mustang. So it is remarkably easy for us to say that the truth of Ford versus Ferrari, not the movie, but
yeah.
the truth of the Ford versus Ferrari was a direct influencer of Bullet in 1968, because The other thing that people that car companies do, and I know this from a personal standpoint, the other thing they do, other than making sure they win races, is they also get themselves driven by hot guys and pretty girls in movies. Yeah. Especially, I'm not even kidding, especially in the 60s and 70s. So we're going to watch Bullitt, 1968, action, Steve McQueen, and it's going to be baller. So, of course, I did my homework. I didn't wing that right now at all.
Totally.
Anyway, guys, it has been fun. This week was Ford versus Ferrari. I've been Kirk.
And I've been Ronan, like always.
And we will, this is, what was it? Films in the Round?
Reels in the Round.
Reels in the Round. Do you know how many podcasts I do sitting at this table? There's a lot of them. And we will see you next week having watched Bullitt.